a question. What would you choose, happiness or unhappiness? But be very, very real, very honest. What would you choose, happiness or unhappiness?
Happiness.
Everybody would say happiness.
Neither.
Neither. They're both the same. If you see them the same. If you see them the same, they're both the same. But if you choose one, if you choose happiness, then chances are you're going to be unhappy. I didn't mean to use a trick question here, but this is the way to begin to explore it. If you choose happiness over unhappiness, then you're going to fight unhappiness when you find it. But if unhappiness arises, and you say, well, that's what is, it's my interpretation and judgment of it, because the being can never be unhappy. Did you know that? The being can never be unhappy. Why? Because it can never be happy either. Because it is happiness itself. Are you with me so far? It cannot feel fear nor emotional love, and therefore it is unconditional love. Because when we think of love, when we think of happiness, when we think of being, we think of something. This is the one thing that very few people ever get, unfortunately. I'm emphasizing it here for those who said they got it, and there are quite a few when they listen to this audio or video, is that what you're getting is in your mind. There's nothing to get, and there's nothing to lose. There's only being. You see? And being is always in that blissful, contented state. Always, because its nature is nothing. You see, this nature is not this or that. It just is. If you ever found yourself in total silence, in total quiet, when your mind wasn't thinking, you felt good. You know, about 6 weeks ago, Peter said, he was listening to a talk, and he says, I felt a moment of joy, just like the time that you received those CDs, you said. And he said, and when I felt that moment of joy, he says, but was that wisdom? I didn't feel any wisdom. Was that silence wisdom? That moment of joy that he experienced, was that wisdom?
So.
Yes. Yes, because wisdom is a silence. See, at the moment that you experience joy, you have a moment when you just are. Okay? What happens in that moment? Can you hurt someone? Do you judge anyone? Can you be violent? Can you think a derogatory thought? Can you be offended? And that moment of joy? No. No. At that moment you are pure being. You see? That's all the wisdom that you need to know that you are this moment itself. I can talk like this for 2 hours, but I'm not saying anything. Are you understanding me? I'm not saying anything. I am saying that there's nothing to know, nowhere to go, nothing to achieve, nothing to accomplish, nothing to attain, but to see that this being that you are is complete. You see? It is your holy essence. It is your sacred self. And when you begin to feel that, when I say feel it, I don't mean emotional feeling. You begin to see that this is all that there is, truly. Then a peace comes to you. You haven't achieved peace. You haven't attained it. It is there. It is your true nature. You see? And no matter what happens, that peace can never be taken away. Once you recognize it, and how do you recognize it? By knowing that the human is a role you are playing. You are a being playing the human role. Human is secondary. Without human, you cannot understand being. You see? Why? Because you need resistance in order to see what doesn't work. Without seeing what doesn't work, you will never be enlightened enough to see what works. Because what works is invisible. What works cannot be seen with the eyes, cannot be heard with the ears, cannot be touched by the hands. You see, that which works is invisible. It's being. So the only way that you can tap it is by knowing that which doesn't work. Nisargadatta, the great master, used to say, get to know who you are not, and who you are, flowers. You see? So, can you discover the being without the human weakness? Well, we already said that. No. By knowing the weakness of the human, you gain strength. What is strength? Knowing the human weakness, and then you realize that this is not who you are. It is just conditioning, upbringing, religious training, parental training, scholastic training, tradition, race, culture, nationality, whatever. All that goes into to make you the human that you are, which is, the psychologists call it, you are the product of your past. But are you really that? Or are you the being that is acting through that? You see? Yeah. How can subject and object be one when they are opposites? We can leave that as the last question. How can subject and object be one when they are both opposites?
The subject is a space for the object. So they're not really opposite, because it's like the container of the cup.
Beautiful. Very good. That's exactly it. That's right. The two are one, but they need each other. You see? You cannot do without subject and object. So some people say, yeah, but you talk about feeling it, but I don't feel it. There's no one to feel it. The one who say it doesn't feel it is the human. You see? So you're always there, you're always in being. The one who's looking through the eyes right now, the one who's looking, is the being. The human supplies the eyes so that it creates the optic nerve in the brain. But it is the consciousness that activates the brain for you to see. You see? And consciousness is being. But you see, if we didn't have a body or mind, which is the object, we can never realize the subject. They both need each other. So it is through the human that we understand the being. You see? But they are both one. They cannot do without each other. Because if we had only a subject and no object, if you had a subject and no object,
You couldn't.
no, it's not possible.
Something for it to go through, a vessel of some kind.
Yeah, yeah, an expression. Yeah,
Isn't the true subject the I am?
that's right. The true subject is I am. Not I am Burt,
No, no.
right? I am. Yes. Yeah, the I am. Perfect. I am, period. You see? I am that. And everybody is the same I am. Everyone is the same I am. And when you begin to see, that is the subject. But the subject is the one that is doing everything through the human. But the human interprets it as negative. For example, did you ever feel really lonely? Have you ever felt like you're being swallowed up with this incredible loneliness and deprivation? You see? Now what is that? When you feel this incredible loss.
The separation.
Well, it's a little more than that. It is love itself. But the ego thinks of it as separation. The human thinks of it as separation. But the vastness that you feel, which is gut-wrenching to the ego because it feels lost, is itself love. But it interprets it as the terrible unknown. You see? But if you were to get in touch with it, it is showing you how vast you are. So you go back to your box and says, I'm afraid. You see? And you withdraw into this box. This withdrawal is a fear of losing the idea of you. Whereas in truth, you are this vast space. But this vast space threatens the human part of you.